as well get started and go through your intro slides.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's kick on past the opening page. And I'll let you cover this little bit if you like, Paul.
Yeah, sure. So, obviously we got a chat. Love to hear people telling us things they like and or comments and stuff like that. Please do use that. But if you've got a question that you want to make sure that we answer, please use the Q&A section. So at the bottom of the Zoom, you'll see a Q&A button, but it might be under the More button. So, hit that if you need to. But yeah, that'll be where you can make sure that we do answer the question.
I'm
And
happy.
yeah, we'll be recording it. Sorry. Yep.
I'm happy you covered that because I don't know my way around Zoom as well as other things.
No worries.
Okay, so moving on. Uh, I guess two of us. Uh, Paul, maybe just explain what you're doing at ShiftCare and how that relates to what we're doing today.
Yeah, I do a bit of everything at ShiftCare. I help the product team and work on development, and I also speak to a lot of customers and help, and I do all the webinars and stuff, as you guys know. So yeah, I've been sort of involved in um, looking at the AI, and I use it a lot as well myself. So I'm very keen to see people engage with it and try and get the most out of it, because yeah, if you're not using AI, you're certainly going to be falling behind over the next 6 to 12 months, that's for sure.
Absolutely. One of the things I would point out, I love the way you guys are you're constantly out in the field talking with people, and I've seen so many examples where feedback comes in from yourself or Matt or someone else being out there and taking that feedback, and the product roadmap just keeps evolving.
Yeah, we're busy, that's for sure. What's happening?
Absolutely. And for me, I'm Dave Keys. I've started up AI is the company, and really where I'm the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer and the founder. And really what we do is we go through and we help companies adopt AI safely, cleanly. And we've got a few things we do specifically around identifying what AI should and shouldn't be used for. You shouldn't apply AI to everything, but I'll get a little more into that maybe towards the end. So, and then I probably should have slipped over to this one for doing that bit.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do have a strong focus on NDIS providers, and I'm finding it's amazing dealing with the NDIS folk. There's so much going on. People just love what they're in here for. So I really enjoy being able to get in and help them with technology, seeing they're not technologists by nature. And I go through and work out how we can get the best for your businesses. So at last, we did a similar one of these about a month ago. It's in the ShiftCare YouTube channel if anyone wants to go back and have a look. And we did a quick poll at that one. And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but we came up with about a bit less than 10% of people at that stage hadn't connected to the ShiftCare MCP account, hadn't connected their ShiftCare account to any form of AI.
Yep.
Now, an interesting fact there, I've been talking now with AI people for uh, coming up on a year. And last December, I went to an NDIS Nexus conference sponsored by ShiftCare and put on by the guys at Nexus in Darwin. And I asked a question of the people in the room, how many people have used AI in their business? And, we had about probably 40 people in the room, and there were probably three hands went up. 2 weeks ago, yes, 2 weeks ago, I was on the Gold Coast doing another one of these events, and I asked the same question. Similar size group of people in the room, and out of the 40-ish people that were in the room, there were probably 2 or 3 hands that did not go up. So that last 6 months has been an amazing
Yeah.
turnaround from no one trying to everyone trying, but then there's different levels they try at.
Yeah.
So quick poll, and this helps us to understand where you guys are at and can help us to understand how we should be adjusting, because we'll be doing another one of these in about a month's time. So these polls help us understand what you're interested in. So which AI are you using today? For
Cool.
some people, it'll be something other than the 4 main ones that are listed there, and for some people, it'll be nothing yet. And the other question that's useful, I'm especially interested in this one, is your business. Most businesses will be using something for email and chatter and that sort of thing, and it'll typically be Microsoft or Google. Occasionally, it'll be something else, but I'd love to understand what the mix is between those. And that plays into the way that we can shape, and actually it also helps me with AI to be able to understand where the dominant things are. I know that most people are in Microsoft, but it helps when I've got a better understanding of what that mix is.
Cool. We've had some good responses, so I think you can keep moving.
Excellent. These are just some examples of the sorts of questions that I tend to hear, and I think it's very similar for Paul and the guys at ShiftCare. Which AI should I use? How do I keep, and this one's important, how do I keep participant data private and compliant? Staff compliance and incident reporting, step-by-step setup. How do I set up and get the MCP server going? We'll be covering that with a bit more depth today. Reports for participant plan reviews. How to manage errors in AI-generated documents. We'll go through a few of these, but this one just here, I'll just make a special mention. It's one where, in the way that these have been set up, we like to keep a human in the loop. And what that means is we can use the AI to go and generate the documents that we're planning to use, or to send out to, it might be to the NDIA, or it might be to participants. Don't automate that sending. On every occasion at this stage of maturity, strongly recommend everything should have a human in the loop, meaning someone reading the documents before they actually go out. So I'll just keep moving on. I've got a couple of slides for the first two, and then we'll cover the others in the demo. Which AI should you use? A recommendation I tend to make, and one of the reasons I asked the question about whether you're using Microsoft or Google, I'm a big fan of keeping the AI that you're using as close to the stack where you've got most of your data. I think it minimizes security exposure. Security surfaces is the right term. And if you're in a Microsoft environment, Copilot's actually very capable. It's not my favorite tool, but what's more important is it's extremely capable. And the other thing I'd point out with Copilot is that it's not the Copilot that you pay $20 or $30 a month for. There's 3 layers of Copilot, and actually a heap of others across different. Copilot in SharePoint is different than Copilot and some of the other Microsoft tools. But there are 3 broad layers. The $20, $30 subscription layer, it's not capable of connecting to the ShiftCare MCP. There's another layer above that called Copilot Studio. It's more technical, and it does connect to the ShiftCare MCP and does a great job of it. And the demo that I did a month ago included using that Copilot Studio version of the Microsoft AI. So you need to be aware of that. On Google, Gemini connects well, it works well. If you're using Gmail, probably your own email address, but using Gmail as the host for that, Google Gemini is a fantastic AI. Highly recommended. Today, we're going to be looking at Claude. I know Paul's a big fan of Claude, and so am I, actually. And it's probably the smoothest, easiest, quickest way to connect to the ShiftCare MCP. It's also one of the more capable ones. And the only reason I don't tend to default with Claude is for the same reason I mentioned for Copilot and Gemini, just that security exposure. And that's a business decision, which is okay to make, but it's a decision you need to make. Don't just fall automatically into adding new tools. ChatGPT, which is probably the one that most people here have tried to some degree, is actually the weakest in a sense, because in order to be, and Paul, you've done a bit more with this, I think. Do you want to talk to what experience you've had with ChatGPT on ShiftCare MCP, or did I fabricate that,
Yeah,
so to speak?
yeah. So um, with ChatGPT and using ShiftCare's MCP, you do need to turn it on into developer mode because the app isn't an official app yet, which means that it doesn't have memories, and you've got to switch it back off again after if you want to have memories in your other chat. So it's a little bit of a sticky point for that, but it still works, and it can still do what you need it to do. But and look, having memory may not be the biggest deal for you anyway. But I know I do enjoy remembering the conversations that I have. So, yeah.
That memory function to me is something I get so much value out of that. It expands the capability of the AI quite significantly. I agree with you strongly. Okay, so keeping participant data protected. Uh, I did mention these things in the last session, but they're very worth repeating. If you're using a free plan, you're not keeping your participant data protected. And if an auditor picked up on that, then that's potentially a fail automatically. And the way to make sure you are getting a reasonable level of data protection, use a team or enterprise plan. Don't use a private plan, whether it's paid or not. It does not have the same terms and conditions attached that it does when it's a team or enterprise plan. If you are using one that also generally will, and these elements here are the same pretty much regardless of which AI we're talking about. On this front, they're all very similar. The data residency is important. If you're using a free ChatGPT, you're almost certainly having the data being sent off to data centers in the US. So when you get the team or enterprise plan, you'll have to go into settings, but you'll find that there'll be options there to select which data centers are being used, and typically you should be selecting Australia or East Australia, which basically means Sydney. The team and enterprise plan have this no training clause, and that tends to be attached to the type of plan that you're on. When it's a private account, even if it's a paid account, there typically won't be those no training clauses in there. And lastly, you stay in control. You decide what the AI can see. Connect deliberately, not by default. And that also, when you're going through, you'll have some options where you can enable the AI to do things automatically or with your permission every time. At this stage, again, until you're very familiar and we get a little more maturity, my suggestion is it's to always get the AI to ask for permission, not to do things automatically. Today, and these are specific to the ShiftCare MCP server, it can read our data, shifts, clients, staff, qualifications, and you can ask plain English questions about it. I'll also show you when we're in the tool, you can ask it what data it can read. There are some reasonably recent updates that and Paul, you'll laugh at this, I asked ShiftCare MCP just a little while ago what endpoints it could see, and it told me that it could read things but couldn't write, and I know that there's a few write capable endpoints in there at the moment. So it can do some updates and creating and updates of records. So you can create and update shifts. Again, though, this should be something you do as you get to learn it. Don't just go in there on day one and ask it to do these sorts of things. Some of the questions that are really good relate to things around rosters and looking for gaps and making recommendations on how you can more effectively get the ShiftCare rosters in place. So a couple of other capabilities that aren't there yet, but they're on the way. There's a substantial amount of progress notes available in ShiftCare, mainly collected by forms at the moment, and that's coming soon. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That actually, the use cases that run through my head when we've got access to that, I can see there will be a lot of additional capabilities that we can get when we can have the LLM interacting natively with the progress notes that are being written. And another one that's on the roadmap is the instant tickets and reports. And I know that that's a priority. Are there any other priority things coming up that you're aware of, Paul, that I haven't put there?
Not off the top of my head, but I might have a quick read and just get the latest from the team, and I'll update you. But I do know that progress notes is certainly something to make it a lot easier to get those notes, because at the moment it's a lot of tokens to try and get a lot of progress notes out. So we're definitely focusing on that. But yeah, I'll update you shortly.
Great stuff. I'm happy to say those progress notes. I think I'm the guy that suggested that, but okay. So now I'm going to jump into a demo, and today what we're doing is just being very simple about connecting it. It's not trying to do anything over the top. Last week or last month, I showed something where I was connecting it using Microsoft Copilot. The Copilot that can connect natively to ShiftCare, and that added a lot of additional functionality, because then I could also connect into other information such as registers and that sort of thing within SharePoint. In this one today, we're just going to do a straight raw connection using Claude, add the connection. There will be a section where it would ask me to authorize access. Because I've done it recently, it won't be doing that. So there may be one step I can't quite show you, but that'll just be open a web page and sign into ShiftCare, and then it'll send you back to the Claude tenant, and you go away and start asking your questions. See the first question I've put there? What can you do with my ShiftCare data? That's a really important question. I'll get into a little bit on how to think about the way you're talking with ShiftCare and able to use the data that's in there. Let it tell you after you ask that question, that slider keeps coming up, let it tell you what it can do and what it can't do. It's really the way that you question it that you'll get the most out of it. So just go back there and we'll go to Claude. Last time,
While you're doing that, yeah, I'll really iterate that. I think a lot of people, when I talk to them about AI, they say, oh, I don't know really what to do, or I don't know what I can do, and all that kind of stuff, and they're a bit timid. But that's the beauty of AI is you literally learn with it. That's how I've learned everything that I can do and how I build apps and do all that stuff is I just talk to it and say, is this possible? How would you do this? What else could I do with this information? This is what I do in my business. This is the challenge that I'm facing. Can you help me with that? Yeah, just talking to the AI is the single biggest piece of advice I can give anyone that's new into AI. It will actually help you to learn how to use it.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite amazing. Uh, okay, so you can see here I've had ShiftCare connected previously. I've disconnected it at the moment. And the way you would go in, whether you're doing it in chat or co-work, the main difference is with chat, each conversation will be a fresh conversation. And in co-work, you can go and set up a project or a task. One of the things I quite like are the projects, and I'll tend to create a project. And what happens then is if I go into one, where have I got I have the ShiftCare project there, but at the moment it won't have access to the ShiftCare data. So if I try and run it right now, what can you see in ShiftCare? It'll come back and it'll basically tell me that it can't really see anything at the moment. So let that keep going. That'll just take a minute to get going. And I think it'll then just confirm what I just said. And then we'll go in and hook up the ShiftCare MCP. MCP, by the way, is just a technical term for uh, finding tools, and there are no tools, is just a technical term for a piece of technology that allows our AI to connect universally to different tools that are using MCP servers. That's the work that Paul and the team have been doing there at ShiftCare. It's doing a bit too much thinking, so will I keep going? Straight answer right now, nothing. It's not showing up as a connected tool in the session. So let's get in and add it in, which is really very simple. If you go customize, you'll find that there's a connectors tab there. And from there, you can connect a bunch of different things. What we're doing in this case, though, and it recognizes it from before, but it's not connected. So I'm just going to put in add a custom connector. And with the custom connectors, Paul and the team are servicing Australia, UK, US, and Canada. And there's a different server available for each of those locations. So, and that adjusts the URL that we put in here slightly. So you can see it's AU for Australia, or it'll be UK, US, or CA for Canada. Don't worry about any of the client ID or the client secret in here at the moment. When I click that, that's just going to, and in this case, it's just going to connect to it. I do need to give it a name though. ShiftCare. I'll call it MCP connection, but you can call it almost anything. It'll recognize what it is. Now checking connection, and because I've already been connected because I'm already, where have I got that? Because I already have, and I'm using the demo version of the ShiftCare guys have a demo version of ShiftCare, and that's where the data is coming from in this case. So this has got demo data in here. None of this is real data. This includes workers like myself, staff like myself, and I'm not really a staff member. I don't go out and do what you guys do in the field. I do go out occasionally, but it's more for observance sake. Um, and so that's the data that we'll be looking at today. None of it is real data. You won't be seeing anything that I'm too worried about. After that's set up and we've got access, I'll just go back here. And if I repeat that question, try again, use plain English when you're talking with the AI, talk about it the same way you'd be talk to it in more or less the same way you'd be talking to myself or Paul, asking questions. What can you do? So that'll go through. I know that that will work. While that's working, ShiftCare overview, there it is. ShiftCare is connected now. Let me confirm account context. And Claude wants to use who am I? So it's basically looking up who am I being, checking that I've got access. I've got the right log on access. So I'm going to allow that, and then it'll go away and it'll say, okay, I'm Dave Keys and I do have access to the data. So now the account is, and that's who am I also gives the ShiftCare demo account. And here are some of the things that I can see there. Now, I'm going to introduce one technical term that you can probably get away without. In fact, I won't introduce the technical term. What data can you see in detail? Can you see, can you write as well as read data?
While that's going as well, just a note that we did add the ability to have like the AI writing, so creating shifts and creating staff and clients and things like that. But it is off by default on your account, so you will need to go to account in your ShiftCare and then go to AI settings, and then you will see a toggle to turn on writable MCP. So make sure you turn that on if that's
Ah,
something you want to do. Um, because yeah, otherwise it'll say that it can't work out why it can't write it.
that's actually I'm happy you said that. So I've been assuming that that was on the connection. You can also adjust it on the connection in here. But so this is given a really good listing, and these are some of the right uh, fields that Paul's just talking about there. Paul, I think a month ago that wasn't that ability to flag that on or off within ShiftCare wasn't there. Is that a more recent addition?
Well, we only added the writable MCP to our customers like last week.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been testing internally for a while, but yeah. So yeah, I think it is pretty new and yeah, they decided to turn it off just because, it has a risk if you have staff connecting and doing all sorts of things. You want to make sure that it's something you want to do and all that kind of stuff. By the way, just looking at this, I kind of just thought like this is why I'm always looking at things like this and I think of ideas, but I just saw there's a create invoice payment as a writable field. And so I know one of the things that people are struggling with at the moment is a bunch of unpaid invoices from Xero. And I know Xero has an MCP as well. So you could theoretically tell it to look up all the invoices in ShiftCare that don't have payments on them, match them to invoice numbers over in Xero that do have payments on them, and then update the invoices to add payments, payment records on there, and bang, you'll be able to mark all your invoices in ShiftCare as paid. So yeah, those are the kinds of cool things that you can do with AI and the MCP.
That's a great use case, actually. So I have the Zero connector for my business available as well, but it's not connected to the same data that ShiftCare is using. But
Mm,
that's a really good, and you can see the way Paul's just thinking of that on the fly. It's actually really just get creative and ask. So
yeah.
in fact, what you could do if I added a Zero connector. would you be able to flag accounts that show as paid, that show a comparison of accounts in ShiftCare and Xero, and identify those that need updating? Now, because I don't have anything there, this is an example of asking a question. I'm asking ShiftCare what it's capable of doing, and you'll find this will give a pretty reasonable sort of an answer to that question. So, and this is based on the back of the observation that Paul just made. So that'll be going through. There is a short bit of waiting for any of these. It shouldn't be too bad, I think, for most of them. But while that's doing that, just have a quick squeeze through what's going on here. The data that we've got access to is really the client style data, including things like get the client fund balance. Assuming you're the sole provider for that client, then that can tell you what is left, what's remaining, and that sort of thing. Uh, Staff, I find it great for giving me a list of staff that have qualifications that are coming up for expiry. And that can again be a very simple, plain English question. What staff do we have that have expiries on their qualifications coming up? Give me a list of who needs to do what in the next few months. So you can see down, and the others are there as well, but you can see the response I've got from that. Good news, and in my case, it's connected, but it won't be able to do the match. So I won't go and try it because that might show up the wrong thing. But it goes through, gives a fair idea, doable now. I can pull ShiftCare clients and invoices and pull, then match them against the Xero accounts that surface in the receivables and flag mismatches in that overlap. So this is just confirming what you were suggesting there, Paul, and it's a great use case.
Just had a question. Angela's asked, if I had this connected, could I ask it to pull out data for a report for a specific client for a report? So yes, but it kind of just depends, right? So the best way for you to know that when you're connected is to ask it. So, say, hey, can you do a report for me on clock in and clock out times for a certain staff member, or can you give me a report for a client? But because what we saw in a list up there was saying, yes, it can get shifts, but it doesn't really tell you the nth level of what it can get out of shifts. So it can get, events out of shifts. It can see clock in and out times and addresses and all that kind of stuff. And same with clients, it can see a lot of its data. And so, yeah, the depending, the devil's in the detail about what specifically you want to report for. But that's an example of a question that you should just ask the AI when you do connect it and say, can you do a report for me? Someone's asking how much does it cost for Claude to answer questions. So the way the subscriptions usually work, and I think with Teams it's like, I don't know, I might be completely wrong here, but I think it's like $40 a month for a minimum of 2 or 4 people or something. So you've got that monthly subscription, and then with that gives you sort of limits that you can do. So if you sit here and smash it for the next hour, you'll probably get capped and it'll tell you to come back in 3 hours or 4 hours, and you can keep going. And then you also get weekly limits as well. And for general usage, I would think that you'd be pretty struggling to hit the cap for a regular sort of person. It just depends how much and what you're asking and the tools that you ask it, because the more complex your questions and the more complex the tools that you do, the more tokens it uses. So yeah, you'll just get a gauge for it after you start using it. And you can see your usage at any time. It'll tell you. Some more questions coming through. Yeah, chuck in your chuck in some stuff for it to do while we're going through. Sherry's asked, and I haven't been ignoring you, Sherry. I was just waiting for a time to bring it up, but Sherry's asking about how to connect Gemini to to the MCP. It is possible, but according to my documentation, I'm not sure how many you've connected, Dave, but I think you either need to be on a uh, Gemini Enterprise plan to do it through like the UI, like you've been doing today, to click on connect and create an MCP and do that. Otherwise, you need to use like a what they call like a CLI, which is like a opening up a command prompt and typing in a bunch of stuff, which might be a little bit above most users here. But those are your two options at the moment. I haven't personally had a go at either of them. I probably should. Actually, I think we use Google here at ShiftCare, so I might see if we've got access to Gemini and give it a test and see. Um, so yeah, is that your experience with that as well, Dave? Yeah.
Uh, yes. The one point that you did make there that is particularly pertinent was the uh, because I know there's a lot of people that are probably listening that are one or two man operators. If you are a very small organization, you may need to get one of those team accounts, which have a minimum seat size. I think it's 5 people, but it might be 4. So that is something to be aware of. Gemini, Gemini, I find really good. I will be honest, I have not connected ShiftCare to Gemini yet. It's on my to-do list, but I find that Gemini is really good on so many fronts. I think it's excellent. Now, just going through it, and you can see, thanks for covering just while I was thinking of a few questions there, Paul. Give me a list of our 3 busiest clients. So it went through the demo data that we've got and came up with the list, looking over the last 90 days, pulling the shift, 707 shifts. There's a lot of data in this one, and then came up with who are the 3 busiest clients. Now it's going through because I've then asked, now give me a table of staff attending those 3 clients with a row for each shift, include clock in and clock out time and staff. So that's now in the process of generating that. Well, it's not yet. I'll just make this 7 days so that it's, which hopefully there's enough data there because it's not perfect data. But I'm thinking 7 days, it'll probably complete quicker than looking for 90 days worth of data.
While that's doing that, there's some more questions coming in. So someone said, do I need to program these things on ShiftCare for it to do these things you guys are talking about? So I guess it depends. So all the AI is doing is looking at your ShiftCare and it's just looking at everything that's in your ShiftCare. And this will answer another question someone's asking about, can I make it do reports that ShiftCare can't do? And the answer to that is yes. So like the AI isn't connecting to ShiftCare and like using ShiftCare like a user. What it's doing is going into ShiftCare and just pulling out all the data. And so it can then do what it wants with that data. And so the answer to the first question about do I need to program these things on ShiftCare? Well, if you're saying do I need to have the data on ShiftCare, then yes, the answer is yes. Although having said that, you can also create data on ShiftCare with this as well. So you could use it to create clients and create shifts and do all that. Then you can then use it to report on that after that happens. But there's only so much it can do. It can't do everything that you can do in ShiftCare. But yeah, this is the beauty of this is it can as we give it access to more data, it will be able to build custom reports for you. Like that's one of the things that I do very regularly is build dashboards and reports for ShiftCare for us internally. And this is using other tools other than ShiftCare as well. But that's one of the best benefits is that you don't have to use any of these sort of secondary Power BI kind of things now. You can just get the AI to build a dashboard for you. Um, so yes, I think you've got some data come through.
Yep. Yep. So that's taken our 3 busiest clients and given a list with the date, the start, the end, who was the staff, and what's the shift ID and shift care. And that's done that for those people. I've also put in another question, two things worth flagging, not papering over. Roster gap. So it's giving us some clues on, and this is where it really comes in valuably. You can see, I'll just hit go on that one. Do we have any staff that are potentially at risk of burnout? If yes, can you make some suggestions for shift adjustments we should make? This is where it's in its element.
Yep.
Um, it's able to go through and have a look at what's happening in terms of assignments, uh, things that where people are potentially going to burn out or there's not coverage, all the stuff that you'd think you've probably got it sat in your head as something you do every morning. Do I have any staff that I need to find work for? Do I have any clients that aren't covered? All of those sorts of things, and you'll find that's where uh, this sort of thing is just amazing for what it can do. Now,
Yep, we got lots of questions coming through. Sorry, you were going to say something.
just the way it came up with that little allow once there,
Yeah. Well,
sometimes for getting access to the data, it is doing some specific queries to the API, and you may need to occasionally give it permission for
yeah.
that. That's that permission thing that Paul was talking about earlier.
Okay, so someone's asked again what plan on Claude. So like we say, look at the teams or the enterprise level plans. They're the ones that you want to do. Someone's asked, can you ask Claude to create a report based on ShiftCare notes for a particular time? Absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the stronger things that you can do. So you could say, hey, I want you to evaluate one of my staff members and the notes that they do over 2 weeks. And it will do excellent at that. That's the kind of stuff that AI does really well. Is there a current AI connection from ShiftCare to Employment Hero? Um, I mean, there's a connection from ShiftCare to AI, and then the question is there a connection from Employment Hero to AI as well, so that you can mix them together? I actually don't know the answer to that. I
There
would,
is.
yeah, I was going to say Employment Hero are pretty full on with AI. They're loving AI, so would have been surprised. So, yeah, I mean, you can look at things like creating timesheets in Employment Hero, based on rosters that you have and stuff like that. You probably can do that. I don't know. I haven't played with it yet, but yeah, there's going to be things you can definitely do with that. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what else you could do with that. Yeah, that sort of got me thinking about other tools that you could use, but yeah.
Uh, that's one of the big things here, and really, I'd suggest one of the things that is a bit of a danger is connecting too many tools to the AI.
Hmm.
You need to be aware of the dangers as you do them. So ShiftCare is amazing. Employment Hero is an excellent tool. Zero is an excellent tool. Uh, my suggestion as a general rule is to get these so that you also will likely have your different policies, registers, and logs that you're using sitting in either Google Workspace or Microsoft Copilot. Be aware as you keep plugging all these different things in, um, you're adding a few dangers just by having so many things connected. And as a general rule, that's one of the reasons I like to use Copilot or Gemini for those sorts of things, just so that we're not adding more tools unnecessarily. But that's the connectivity between these tools is where you really uh, amplify what you can do with this sort of stuff. It's quite amazing how much of a difference that makes.
I can see that report that's come out, and it was about burnout and all that kind of stuff, and that's really good. I think one thing though that flags to me here is that it's noticed a violation in the SHADS award, right? So one of the hardest things for providers is dealing with the SHADS and making sure that you're in you're not violating the Shads Award. ShiftCare, like the Claude can absolutely do that. I think it's probably not going to be 100% on some of the technical stuff, but you can train it to be like if you teach it and give it the right resources that it can understand. But yeah, you could literally say, check my roster for next week. Are there any Shads violations on this? And especially if you put it into like research mode where it will actually go and search a lot of websites and really in depth do it. It costs some more tokens, but it's probably worth it um, for a Shads deep dive of your roster. You could absolutely use AI to be checking over your compliance to Shads.
Just a quick mention there of because I've started using Opus 4.8, I don't have the ability to change unless I start a fresh chat. But if this was a fresh chat, there would be a research mode available by clicking on that little button there.
And also, that's actually a good point about models as well. One thing you learn if you start using AI a lot is that it is quite important which model you're using, and they'll automatically put you on the latest one, which is, of course, the most expensive one to
Yes.
use. And so you will burn through your credits a lot faster. You don't generally, depending on what you're doing, you don't really need it to be on the highest model. The highest model can be good for like things like I just said, which is like analyzing the Shads Award and making sure that it's using real deep analytical thinking and making sure that it's doing things like that. But if it's just things like, I want you to get shifts, I want you to show me data, I want you to update shifts and do this, you can absolutely drop down to like a much lower model, which can, like in some cases, be like 10% of the cost of the higher models. So yeah, definitely look at the model that you're using. Got a ton of questions, so I'll keep coming through some of these. Can we use, yeah, I already answered that. Can you control who has access to use this AI tool in your organization? Different layers of access, as we would not want all the staff being able to use this function, admin access. I believe only admin staff can connect it right now. That's just off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've looked into this, so I think it's limited to admins right now. But I do think that long term, we're looking at a way. Definitely carers can't, like there's no doubt about that. They need to be able to log in and connect. And I think we'll be looking at permissions and ways on different roles, like, coordinators and all that kind of stuff that you can say yes or no to whether it's like read only or write access as well. So yeah. A simple question that we often have is what staff aren't on a shift today and have sufficient gaps that can be offered shifts that are available? Do we need to use AI to answer that, or can there be, or are there filters on the scheduler screen that can be used? It's a good question. So, like within ShiftCare, I mean, if you had a shift and you wanted to know if you wanted to put someone on it, it will like tell you that there's no one. Like if a staff member's already on a shift, it'll say they're already on a shift, so you can't. So like on a per shift basis, you can do that in ShiftCare right now. If you were looking for like a just do 10 shifts right now, tell me who's available and who's the best person. And this is where I would say that you're going to get your power is like you can tell the AI your staff that are permanent part time what their agreed hours are, and then you can say, look at the shifts on shift care that don't have a carer on it this week. Who should I give these to? And it will be able to tell you to maximize, make sure you're using your permanent part-time staff first and casuals. And so definitely, I think that would be a great tool to use AI for. It would be doable in shift care, but slower for sure. Is there a Privacy Act risk with AI leaking private information? So look, the answer to that is that if you are on the team and the pro plan, um, the team or the enterprise level plans, and you should absolutely confirm this before you sign up and start putting data in there for whatever AI you're using. They will tell you that they won't use your data to train the AI. And when we say train the AI, what it just means is that the reason AI does what it does is it's read billions of stuff over the years, and that data is inside the AI, and it uses that data to learn from. And so essentially if you leaked personal data to that, it could then spit that out to someone else because it was part of its learning. So that would be a risk, absolutely, and you absolutely should not do that.
Mm.
But outside of that, the risk, I guess it's up to you guys to determine your risk. But the one thing I would say is that it's worldwide being used for medical services by hospitals, by everything. So, read into that what you will. I'm kind of avoiding saying anything that'll that anyone can quote me on later, but you can make your own evaluations on that. Um,
And it sometimes also plays into the way your company has been set up as well. And that's so one of the things that I do with my company is to guide organizations through exactly that scenario. How do we set it up so it's not violating any of those principles that need to be
yeah.
kept in play? And so that involves coming in, having a look at how your organization's set up. And sometimes it might involve uh, helping to understand what the use cases you should be addressing are, but also what your back end is. Are you using Microsoft versus Google versus something else? What
Yeah.
are the different options available, and helping to guide through what that should look like?
Still got a ton of questions. We're running out of time, so I'm going to keep burning through so we can try and answer as many questions. Also, like ChatGPT has mistaken answers, how about this Claude connect to ShiftCare? Will Claude generate wrong information? Look, I mean, any AI has the potential to do that. I think you need to be mindful of that. And when you're asking questions, if it's something where a you're like the risk with AI comes when you give it too much. Like if you give it a spreadsheet with 500,000 entries in it, it's going to just hallucinate half the file. It's just too much. If you do it in more manageable batches, like 500 at a time, it's very unlikely it's going to get the numbers wrong. And I think it's actually getting a lot better in recent times with that. I've been noticing that I'm able to do spreadsheets with absolutely no issues in the last month. Um, and so, look, it is something you need to be aware of. AI can hallucinate. It really is down to how broad you are with what you ask and how much data you're asking it to analyze in one go. But my experience, I use Claude extensively and almost exclusively, and I don't have a lot of problems at the moment with any hallucinations. But you certainly should be double checking, especially if it's the first time you've run a prompt. You should double check information and make sure that it's okay. And then when you feel comfortable, you can probably run it again with not too much concern. Does ShiftCare now support write privileges using AI agent? Is still read only? Yeah, we do write. When in the future do you anticipate we'll be able to write processed information? So yeah, there are certain tools, but if you go to your account and AI settings in ShiftCare and make sure that you've got write enabled. And then if you talk to Claude, it'll tell you what it can and can't write at the moment. So yeah, I'm wondering if you can pull staff qualifications from Employment Hero and transfer across to ShiftCare. Yeah, you probably can, but I would say that that's something our integration already does anyway, so you may not need the AI to do that. You should be able to pull that information out of Employment Hero, both HR and payroll at the moment. So maybe check our support articles on that.
Well,
Unless, yep,
just to touch quickly on one point you made there, the hallucinations, they are a danger. The quickest way to remove hallucinations is to get the best data sources set up the right way. And in an ideal world, you'd also consider doing things like having single sign-on across your different applications. These sorts of things, if they're done properly, they make it really a huge amount safer to use.
yep.
But understanding that stuff is not something that you will have out of the box. And while you can ask Claude to give you a direction on how to do that, it needs some technical skills as well.
A list of all client documents that are expiring in the next month would be great. I think it can. Yeah.
It can, and I put that question. I saw that question as well, and I
Uh,
plugged exactly that in. And we didn't have doesn't expose client documents as a staff.
I'd be interested because I think there's some confusion with the API and the AI in terms of qualifications versus staff files because and client files. We used to store them, we used to call them as files, but now we call them qualifications. Can you ask
Mm.
it if it can see expiry dates of qualifications instead? We'll see what that says. Um, Paul's asked, ShiftCare write permissions is enabled, but the GPT connector currently does not expose a staff profile update write point for me to call. We want to update all the staff's bios. So this is where you're going to hit a wall, right? So you're going to get to certain things. You're going to be like, I've come up with the best idea ever. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. It's going to save me 4 hours a week. And then you go to do it and it says, I can't do that. So what you need to do with that is you need to email me, paul@shiftcare.com. You need to tell me what you're trying to do and what the workflow is. And I will send it to the AI team, that we've got that's building out all these right points and endpoints because we need to know what our customers are wanting to do and which endpoints they need and why they're doing it. And then the more that we hear feedback on that, the more we can prioritize which endpoints that we do first. Because it is like a never, like there's literally no way we could ever have every endpoint and every data point available. Like it's always constantly changing. So we just need to know how to prioritize it. So yeah, Paul, send me an email, paul@shiftcare.com, and we can have a chat about that. There is also a much more advanced way of using AI where you can, because there is a difference between what ShiftCare can write through the MCP versus what you can write to ShiftCare through API, which is a sort of an older way, I guess, of putting data into ShiftCare. But you can build tools with AI that uses the API, so that means that you can still do it. And so I'm happy to talk people through that and have conversations around that as well. Because if you learn this stuff, it takes you to the next level. Like you're able to build dashboards and all sorts of things. And so it might be a case with this one, Paul, where that field might not be in the MCP, but it is on the API. So I can help you with that. But I don't know. We'll have to do some playing around and have a test. But yeah, shoot me an email. One last question. And this is probably the coolest question. Is there a way to ask what the best roster would be for a SIL house with client ratios? And so as someone who doesn't work in the NDIS space but speaks to NDIS providers nonstop every day, I am still constantly amazed at this rock that you guys get with all the bloody ratios everywhere and like trying to build a roster out of that. I'm always like, I don't know how you guys do that. That's crazy. And so I would say that I think the answer to that is that I think there would be a way to do that. I think you would be able to do that. I think you probably would need to spend some time training an AI and learning what the prompt is going to be because there's going to be nuances with it. So you're going to have to say, look at the ratios here, make sure that you do this, make sure that, and see what it does. And maybe even like sign up to a trial on ShiftCare and connect MCP to the trial and just get it to do it right and then see how it goes. And then as you iterate on it, you'll build a prompt that has the information it needs to build that properly. But I actually would be really keen to see if anyone else is doing that. Let me know how you go and what prompts you're using, because I think we should all share with each other the prompts that we're using that provides really beneficial outcomes for you. And so if we can all start sharing that, if you all want to email me and I can start sharing it in the webinars, and this is a monthly webinar, so I can start emailing everyone that's registered for the webinar for some cool prompts and things that people are telling me, because yeah, I think the more we share information with each other on this stuff, the more that we'll get benefit out of AI.
Absolutely. Now, one last thing, and just going to the end. I've got a booklet that's available at this location here for anyone that's interested, and it's got a bunch of use cases that relate to this sort of stuff. I've largely got stuff already built for those, and they use the ShiftCare MCP and potentially other elements as well to be able to answer specific issues that you might have to improve your business and your margin and all of that sort of jazz.
Yeah, look, if you're a mid to sort of, if you're going into that mid to larger size business and you're not embracing AI, I think speaking to Dave would be a very smart idea to see how you can do it. It is worth investing in, and you will fall behind if you don't, and you will be able to get benefits out of it. So definitely reach out to Dave if it's something you don't feel like you guys can just jump into and you need someone to guide you through that. That's what he's there for. Um, Hey Dave, before we wrap up, what did it say about the qualifications and the expiry? Did it actually answer?
Yes, it did. It did a
Did
great
it
job.
say it could see it? Okay, cool. Because the other thing I was going to say to the person asking about the client expiry is that we have a report that gives you all your staff, and all your clients and all the expiry dates. So you can just export it as a CSV and put it into the AI, and it'll be able to do that as well. So sometimes you can pull out the raw data out of CSVs. Actually, that's a really good point that we probably should, like I do this all the time, right? If they can't see it through the MCP, you can pull out all our reports have CSV exports. So you can pull that data out in CSV, put it into the AI and say, now I want you to do a report for me based on this. So even if you can't see it through the MCP, it's not the end of the line. You can pull data out through CSVs if it can't see it on MCPs. So yeah. All right. I think we're done. Thank you, Dave. That was awesome. I think we answered a lot of really good questions. I'd be really keen to hear from all you guys about how you're using AI, and um, let's start all working together to see if we can come up with some cool tools.
I think you're spot on there. I think that the questions coming in were, I think we've probably got more questions now than we did have before. Uh,
Yeah, it's good. Sorry, yeah. The person saying there, how do I access a CSV export? So every report that you see in ShiftCare, so when you go to reports and there's a compliance report and all that kind of stuff, there's always like an export button. So that's just how you do it. You put your date range in, hit the export button. You can get it all out in CSV. But have a go. If you run into any dramas, shoot me an email. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dave. Good job, mate. I'll see you in a
Pleasure.
month.
Thank you.